The hallway outside the audition room smelled faintly of coffee and nervous sweat, a familiar mixture that clung to every major talent competition across the world. Voices echoed from behind closed doors, some confident, some shaky, some already filled with tears. Contestants sat along the wall, clutching water bottles, lyric sheets, lucky charms, and quiet prayers. At the far end of the corridor, seated slightly apart from the others, was a woman in a simple floral dress. Her shoes were modest. Her hair was neatly tied back. Her hands rested calmly on her lap, though if anyone looked closely, they would notice the faint tremble in her fingers. Her name was Maria Santos. She wasn't a professional singer. She didn't have a manager. She didn't have a stylist. She didn't even tell most people she could sing well. She was a public school teacher from a small coastal town in the Philippines. Every morning at 5, Maria woke up to the sound of roosters and motorcycles passing on dusty roads. She prepared lesson plans before sunrise, packed notebooks into a faded canvas bag, and walked nearly 20 minutes to the elementary school where she taught English and music to children who dreamed of becoming doctors, engineers, singers, and sometimes superheroes. Maria loved her students more than anything. But deep inside her chest lived a quiet dream she had carried since childhood, a dream she never fully believed was meant for someone like her. A dream of singing on a big stage. Not in karaoke bars, not at family gatherings, not in front of children who adored her no matter what. On a real stage, under real lights, in front of people who didn't know her story, people who would judge only her voice. She had almost turned around 3 times that morning. Standing in front of the mirror of a small rented room in Manila, Maria had stared at her reflection and whispered, "You're just a teacher. Who do you think you are?" She remembered the countless times she had told her students to chase their dreams. "You must try," she always said. "You must believe in yourself." Yet when it came to her own dream, belief felt fragile. It was her students who changed everything. 2 weeks earlier, during lunch break, a group of her pupils had crowded around her classroom piano. Maria often played soft melodies while they ate. Sometimes, when the room felt safe enough, she sang. That day, she sang a simple pop ballad. When she finished, the room was silent. Then one boy broke the silence. "Teacher Maria, why aren't you famous?" She laughed it off. Another girl spoke up. "Teacher, you sound like the singers on YouTube." A third student, small and serious, looked at her and said, "You always tell us not to be scared. But I think you are scared." That sentence followed Maria home. It followed her while she washed dishes. It followed her while she prepared lessons. It followed her while she lay in bed staring at the ceiling. 2 nights later, she filled out the online audition form for X Factor. She didn't tell her parents. She didn't tell her colleagues. She didn't even tell her best friend. Only her students knew. On the morning she left for Manila, they surprised her with a handwritten card signed with crooked letters and colorful hearts. "Go show the world, Teacher Maria." She cried all the way to the bus station. Now, sitting outside the audition room, Maria watched contestants rehearse under their breath. Some practiced high notes, others warmed up with scales. A few wore flashy outfits and heavy makeup. Many were young, confident, and visibly hungry for fame. Maria felt invisible. She felt old. She felt out of place. Her phone buzzed. A message from one of her students. "Teacher, we are watching YouTube videos of auditions. One day we will watch yours." Maria closed her eyes. "Please," she whispered, "just let me be brave for 5 minutes." A staff member opened the door. Maria Santos. Her heart jumped. She stood slowly, smoothing her dress. Her legs felt heavy as she stepped forward. The audition room was much larger than she expected. Bright lights pointed toward a small X on the floor. Beyond the lights sat the judges. At the center, Simon Cowell. To his left and right, 2 other judges whose faces she recognized from television. They looked relaxed, casual, almost bored. Maria swallowed. "Hello," Simon said. "What's your name?" "Good morning, sir. My name is Maria Santos." "Where are you from, Maria?" "I'm from the Philippines, sir." "And what do you do?" "I am a public school teacher." Simon raised his eyebrows slightly. "A teacher?" "Yes, sir." The judges exchanged quick glances. One judge smiled politely. "What made you decide to audition?" Maria hesitated. She could have said, I love singing. She could have said, it's my dream. Instead, the truth slipped out. My students believe in me more than I believe in myself. For a brief moment, something softened in Simon's expression. What will you be singing today? A pop ballad, sir. Whenever you're ready. Maria walked to the X. The room felt enormous. She could hear her heartbeat in her ears. She thought of her classroom. She thought of chalk dust. She thought of small hands clapping out of rhythm. She thought of the card with crooked letters. She took one deep breath. And she opened her mouth. The first note floated into the room, soft but perfectly controlled. It wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. It was clean, pure, precise. Simon's posture changed instantly. The second note came, richer, fuller, carrying warmth and strength. By the third line, Maria's voice had grown into something no one expected. It wasn't a nice teacher voice. It wasn't a good for a local contest voice. It was a world-class pop voice. Powerful, polished, emotionally charged. One judge's mouth slowly fell open. Another leaned forward. Simon stopped tapping his pen. Maria closed her eyes as she sang. All the fear she had carried for years poured into the song. Every time she chose responsibility over risk. Every time she told herself she wasn't special. Every time she stood at the back while others stepped forward. Her voice rose. Strong, clear, confident. The room seemed to shrink until it was only her and the music. When she reached the first big chorus, the sound expanded. It filled the space. It wrapped around the judges. It vibrated in the walls. The song wasn't just being sung. It was being lived. Simon stared, not smiling, not frowning, just staring. That rarely happened. Maria moved into the second verse, her voice softer now, pulling the listeners closer instead of pushing. You could hear every breath, every crack of emotion. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. As the final chorus approached, Maria opened her eyes. For the first time, she looked directly at the judges. She didn't see celebrities. She didn't see power. She saw human beings listening. She lifted her chin, and she unleashed everything she had left. A soaring note rang through the room. Perfect pitch, perfect control, the kind of note singers spend lifetimes chasing. When the song ended, silence took over. No immediate applause, no cheering, just stunned quiet. Maria's heart pounded. She wondered if she had done something wrong. Then one judge slowly stood up. Clap, clap, clap. The other judge joined. Simon remained seated. Maria's stomach dropped, but Simon's eyes were locked on her. After a long pause, he leaned forward. Maria, his voice was unusually calm. I did not expect that. A small nervous laugh escaped Maria's lips. You were a teacher, Simon continued, but you just sang like someone who belongs on the biggest pop stages in the world. Maria felt tears burning her eyes. That was not a good audition, Simon said. Her heart sank. That was a great audition. The audience crew behind the cameras erupted. Maria covered her mouth. One judge said, your voice is naturally commercial. It doesn't sound forced. It doesn't sound trained in a stiff way. It sounds real. Another judge added, you walked in here looking ordinary. You opened your mouth and sounded like a global pop star. Maria shook her head in disbelief. Simon leaned back in his chair. Why are you still a teacher? The question wasn't cruel. It was curious. Maria took a breath. Because children need someone to believe in them. And because I never thought someone like me could do this. Simon nodded slowly. Well, Maria, I think today you started believing. He paused. Let's vote. The first judge. Yes. The second judge. Absolutely yes. All eyes turned to Simon. He smiled slightly. It's a yes from me. Maria let out a sob. Her knees nearly buckled. She bowed repeatedly. Thank you. Thank you so much. As she walked off stage, staff members hugged her. One whispered, you're going viral. Maria didn't understand what that meant yet. By the time she reached backstage, her phone was vibrating nonstop. Messages poured in. Unknown numbers. Missed calls. Notifications. A producer showed her a screen. Her audition clip was already being shared. Thousands of views. Then hundreds of thousands. Within hours, millions. Back in her hometown, Maria's school had gathered students in the library around a single computer. They watched their teacher appear on screen. They watched her introduce herself. They watched her sing. Some children screamed, some cried, some simply stared in awe. The boy who once asked why she wasn't famous whispered, "I knew it." Maria's parents watched from their small living room. Her mother covered her mouth with both hands. Her father wiped his eyes silently. "That's our daughter," he said. For the first time in her life, Maria allowed herself to imagine a different future. Not instead of teaching, but alongside it. A future where she could stand on stages and still return to classrooms. A future where her voice reached beyond four walls. The next rounds were harder. Competitors were strong. Some had professional backgrounds. Some had huge followings. Maria often felt small again. But every time doubt crept in, she remembered her student's card. She practiced late at night. She worked on breath control. She learned to move on stage. She learned to trust her voice. Week after week, she advanced. Each performance showed a new side of her voice. Power ballads, up-tempo pop, emotional acoustic songs. Judges praised her consistency. Viewers connected with her story. Online comments flooded in. "She's proof that dreams don't expire. Teachers are heroes. Her voice gives me chills." Simon became visibly invested. After one performance, he said, "You don't just sing songs. You communicate." During another, he said, "You are becoming a real artist." Maria kept teaching when she returned home between tapings. She refused to quit. Her students noticed changes. She stood taller. She smiled more. She still checked homework. She still scolded gently. But something inside her had shifted. Confidence. One afternoon, a shy girl stayed behind after class. "Teacher Maria, I want to be a singer too. But I'm scared." Maria knelt beside her. "So am I," she said softly. "But I sing anyway." As the competition reached its later stages, pressure intensified. Eliminations hurt. Friends went home. Maria cried often, but she never regretted stepping onto that first stage. Her semifinal performance became one of the most talked about moments of the season. She sang a song about perseverance. Halfway through, her voice cracked, not from lack of control, but from emotion. Instead of ruining the performance, it made it unforgettable. Simon stood when she finished. The audience followed. A standing ovation. "You started as a teacher who could sing," Simon said. "Now you're a singer who teaches the world something." Maria did not win the competition. Another contestant took the trophy. For a moment, disappointment stung. But then something incredible happened. Record labels reached out. Producers called. Invitations came. Maria released her first single. It charted. She performed on talk shows. She sang at benefit concerts for education. She used her platform to raise funds for school supplies in rural areas. And every Monday morning, when she wasn't traveling, she returned to her classroom. Her students still called her Teacher Maria. Not superstar, not celebrity, teacher. One day, a new card appeared on her desk. It was from a new batch of students. "Teacher Maria, because of you, I believe I can be anything." Maria smiled. She realized something important. She didn't step onto that stage to become famous. She stepped onto that stage to become brave. Fame was just a side effect. Courage was the real victory. And somewhere, in a small classroom filled with big dreams, a Filipino teacher who once thought she was ordinary continued to open her mouth. And every time she did, she sounded like someone who changed the world.